Thanks so much for joining us today for our HKR live session with the Faculty of Human Kinetics and Recreation. Today, joining with me, I have Dr. Marie Sullivan. But before we get started, I'm just going to go over a couple of things. So this session's being recorded, so just keep in mind if you're participating that you're consenting to having that recording, and it's going to be posted at a later date on our D2L shell. Your mics are muted and your video is turned off, so just keep that in mind. If you want to put a question in the chat, feel free to do so. That's what we're here for. But the bandwidth is being reduced by having everybody's video off and mics muted, so that's just to keep the session going. And today's focus is HKR, so keep in mind, keep your questions related to that. And if you do have a question, if it gets really busy and we don't get to it by the end of the session, don't worry, we'll be able to follow up with you in a direct message. And if you have any questions after the fact, if you're watching on D2L, then you can certainly email ask@mun.ca. So to get us started, Dr. Sullivan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within the faculty of HKR?
Hello. So thank you. It's a beautiful day for this, so that's kind of nice. So my name is Marie Sullivan. I am the Associate Dean in the School of Human Kinetics and Recreation. I've actually been with the unit coming up on 18 years, so I've been here a while. We do offer 4 undergraduate degree programs. So we have 1 cooperative program, our Bachelor of Human Kinetics and Recreation cooperative, and we have 3 non-co-op options in physical education, kinesiology, and recreation. Many of our students use the degrees as stepping stones into graduate programs, physio, OT, medicine, nursing, social work. Within the co-op program, students can focus on different pathways. So we have a community recreation, a recreation therapy, health promotion, and kinesiology pathways that students can follow if they are doing co-op. The main difference with the co-op degree right now is because it has elements of all of our program areas built into it. So students do get a bit of a taste of phys ed, recreation, and kin within the HKRC. And you would alternate between academic semesters and work terms. And so our work terms, again, are relevant to students within that area. So we have placements with recreation centers, with physio clinics, with some of the sports groups. So there's different types of opportunities that can happen within co-op. If you're in non-co-op, there's still lots of experiential learning opportunities built into the 3-degree program. So our students still get a lot of hands-on experiences. It just sort of depends on what the end goal is. So why are you doing one of our degrees, and what do you hope to do after the fact? We are a very small unit as units go across campus. So including myself and the dean, Dr. Rohr, we have 17 faculty members. We have about between 350 and 400 undergraduate students at any given time, and we have about 100 grad students. So it has a very small school feel. Of course, we won't see that this fall, but normally faculty office doors are open and students are welcome to drop in. And I think one of the major advantages of being in a small program is you actually get to know your faculty members really well. I think it would be very hard to find a student of ours who hasn't had a connection with at least one faculty member, normally more than that, particularly when a lot of our students are looking for references later on. It's very easy to do in our unit because you have every opportunity to become really well known in our unit as a student. So you don't get lost in the crowd very easily. Anything else you want me to say about the program?
Well, it sounds like there's a really nice home feeling in the faculty of HKR.
Yeah.
For sure. So students are wondering how they should prepare for their studies in the fall in this unique environment that we're in. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about how they can begin to prepare for their studies in September?
Sure. So, as you know, we're completely remote. I guess one of the important things to understand with that is that we view remote learning and distance learning as two very distinct things. So, we do offer some distance courses, and that's been built into our program for many, many years. Those courses would look and feel exactly the same as if you were on campus. The remote learning courses, our faculty have worked really hard and are working all summer to really pivot to be able to deliver some unique opportunities remotely. So, for example, we would normally have lab courses where students would, in anatomy, would go over to medicine. That's not happening this fall, but we do anticipate still being able to deliver labs virtually and still meet all of the student outcomes. So I think my advice would be the same as it would if you were coming on campus. Connect with your instructors and connect early so that you understand what the expectations are, if you have any concerns around those expectations, and keeping in mind that for a lot of us, this is new to us as well. So I get that it's new to you. You're coming to a new place and you're in a new program, but it's also new to us because we typically are in a building and we go to a classroom and we lecture, and so it's very different. So I think that I know from speaking with the faculty, everyone recognizes that things could change as the semester progresses, as we learn what's working and what's not working as well, because it is a very different method of delivery than we would typically see. The other piece I would say is you still want to plan your time knowing you still have if you're a full-time student, you still have a full-time commitment. So it might not feel like that all the time, but it is still there. And certainly the course outcomes have not changed. So I still think you're going to want to be ready to jump in and act like a full-time student and connect with your instructors. So they know that there's going to be lots of questions. If they're doing pieces synchronously, make sure that you are able to be online at that time, because there's going to be important information that comes up that you might otherwise miss. So I would still treat it like going to class, even though it's going to look somewhat different.
So you mentioned synchronous versus asynchronous. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah. So if something is synchronous, it means it's going to happen in the time that's scheduled. So for example, I teach Tuesday, Thursday mornings, and I could potentially still have live sessions at that time. Asynchronous would be, I'm not going to have a class and you're going to be assigned something to do potentially. Like I think we will see a lot of blended learning this fall where there will be some live sessions and some work that you do yourself. And I know that that's going to be very different coming out of a high school system for sure, because a lot of your work is done in the classroom. So that's going to look pretty different because there is going to be an expectation that you're doing some of these pieces yourself. So I think understanding what the timing looks like. And I've chatted to some students and suggested whatever your schedule looks like, it might be a good idea to actually follow that schedule. So if you're in my class and you're supposed to come to my class Tuesday and Thursday morning, but I'm not having class, kind of dedicating that time to my class would also be a good idea. Because if you have any group work, then everyone else in your class should also be available at that time. So I would still treat it like this is the time that I have dedicated to this course. And you would have to be in class anyway, so you shouldn't be doing something else. But that kind of piece, yeah.
Makes sense. Kind of carving out that space just like you would with a job.
I know I'm going to have to. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll be doing Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
Fair. And just to add to that, we have someone wondering in terms of connections online and how students can get to know each other when they're learning online. Is there anything that the faculty is doing to help students have those connections, make those friendships, and that kind of thing?
Yep. So, as you can imagine, in a unit like ours, where people skills are very important, some of those soft skills of being able to work together and connect with other people, we still have to make sure that those components are addressed because ultimately our graduates go out to work with people. We are going to start hosting a number of orientation sessions, likely through Zoom. And our students, anyone coming into us, will receive email messages about those. And I know that we're kind of in the unique position of we have a full cohort in class this summer. So because we're a co-op program, we have our co-op students doing their academic semester this semester. So we've had a little bit of time to start looking at how to use sort of small breakout rooms so that students can actually have some of those same small discussions that they would have in a classroom, but it'll be happening virtually. And so I do know that the faculty are very aware of that's a really important part of your university experience. So it will be happening. I also always tell students, if you have any of those concerns, come and see me. So email me, and if I can make anything happen to change that experience, I will. So I've started hosting some Zoom sessions for our current students this summer. And the students have all come back to indicate that it's helpful just to be able to get online, see each other, ask questions, or hear the questions that other students have, because they might not have the question immediately, but the information might be helpful. So if there's anything that we can do to improve that experience, we would like to still be able to, do that.
And to get your email, you're best reached at the one online. If you just pop Marie Sullivan in the little search bar there on Monday.
The only thing to pay attention to is it doesn't have an N. Okay. Marie Sullivan, which is really confusing. But HKR advice works as well. So anything that comes in through HKR advice is monitored by us. And so anything like that would immediately be sent to me. So that might be the easier one because it's harder to get wrong.
Fair. And Dr. Sullivan also mentioned that you're going to get an email from the HKR faculty. So folks, be sure you have your @mun.ca email set up.
Yes.
If you're looking for instructions on that, you can certainly check that out online. We'll put a link in the chat. In terms of like success in your first year and what have you, what would you recommend for students to do within the HKR faculty for their studies and how to be successful?
Again, I think it comes back to my earlier comment, connect with your instructors early. A lot of students find the transition to university is quite significant. I myself was one of those students once upon a time ago. And I think if you reach out and we know that something is going on or that you're struggling with something in particular, then amongst all of us, we should be able to figure out what your best route is. Like something that students don't like to do, for example, is drop a course. You're better off dropping a course than failing a course. So if it delays you a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but it's important that you kind of look at how can you be successful. So we actually, again, because we're a small unit, it's very easy for us to meet with students and be able to look at things and kind of suggest, this is clearly an area that's a concern, pick that course up in the summer instead of doing it now. If you're feeling overwhelmed, recognize that probably 90% of your class is feeling overwhelmed. But we are here to help. The other thing that we have put in place, last year was the first year we piloted this kind of a program, but we put a peer-assisted learning program in place. And so those types of sessions will also still happen. I have a student working on it with me this summer so that we can still deliver those sessions. They'll be delivered virtually as opposed to in the classroom. But again, those are sessions that are going to allow you to connect with other people in the program. First years as well as fourth years. So there's anyone is welcome to attend those sessions. And the hope is that It probably won't happen this year because of everything else that's gone on this year, but we'd like to set up some kind of a mentorship program where you'd be paired with a senior student. And if that's something that is of interest to individual students, they could certainly reach out and we could still connect you with a more senior student. But I think it's recognizing it is challenging. Your grades might look very different than you're used to. That's not uncommon. If you have been accepted into HKR, you're coming in, we know you're clearly academically capable. Our programs are very competitive. So something got you in, and our goal would be to keep you there. But we can't keep you there if we don't know what's going on. So it's really important for us to be able to help, and we can only help if we know what the issues are.
Being proactive is super important for sure.
Yeah.
Any student. We do have another question about your labs. About your co-op program.
Okay.
I guess the labs could also be included in that as well. But in terms of co-op placements, students are wondering how to find those online.
So if you're in the co-op program, you actually do a professional development course in the fall of your second year. And that tells you everything you need to know about co-op, including how to apply for positions. So you actually can't just pop in and look for the positions online. You have to be set up in the system so that you have access to the platform to view those positions. So students actually can't view the positions until they're in the co-op program and the jobs are posted, because the jobs are posted each semester. So for example, right now, actually this week, we have students who were interviewed earlier in the week and they will actually get their job match on Friday. So they'll be informed of which jobs they've been offered on Friday and figure out where they're going for the fall. So it isn't something you can just go look up, unfortunately.
Okay, but it's something that you folks help them with further down the line.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a co-op coordinator, and that's her primary responsibility, would be looking at all aspects of co-op. Yeah.
Perfect. And in terms of labs, we did have that question as well. How are they going to be working from an online standpoint?
They're going to be delivered remotely. Everything is still happening, so we haven't canceled any of those courses. So it's really going to depend on the individual instructors and how they've set that up. So some, as I mentioned, are doing their labs will be live labs, whereas others, there will be more video-based and activities that the students will be doing on their own time. So it really depends on the lab course and the instructor's decisions around how that's going to be delivered. And I think for the majority of first years, they wouldn't be in any of our labs anyway. They might be in some of the science labs, because our first years would only be in HKR 2000 in the fall, and then HKR 2500 in the winter. And one thing I will say, follow your degree map. If you are in one of our programs, following that degree map will ensure that you finish on time as well, because there are some prerequisites built in and there's a sequencing to the courses. And I find sometimes students take their sequencing their own way. But as soon as you change your sequencing, you're potentially changing the layout of the remainder of your degree. So you should be trying to follow that degree map as closely as possible.
Is the degree map something that's on your website or communicated directly to them?
Nope, it's on the website.
On the website, perfect. So we can put that link in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in terms of academic advisors within the faculty of HKR, I think you touched on this a little bit, kind of like with your open door policy. But if you're looking to speak to an advisor about what courses to select and what have you, who's the best person to contact?
Penny White is our academic program officer. So Penny would meet with anybody around course selection. For the most part, there's very minimal choice in first year. The degree map is fairly laid out, and for any of the programs, there's very little choice in that first year. But the things that you would want to make sure you get advice on, for example, the phys ed students have to have a minor or an academic discipline because they need a second teaching area. So we've had students in the past who've missed that and then get near the end of their degree and are trying to pick up all their courses to meet the requirements for the minor. The advisor would also be able to tell you what some of the regulations are around progressing through the program. So we have a promotions meeting at the end of every semester, and she would be able to talk to students about what happens if they're not successful with their promotion and those kinds of things. Similarly, our students who do recreation therapy typically want to do certification upon completion of their degree, and if they miss some of those key courses along the way, they're not eligible for it. So it is important to understand what your degree requirements are and then what some of your goals might be outside of degree requirements. So as I said, a lot of our students use their degrees as stepping stones. It's only going to be a good stepping stone if you've made the right choices. So you might graduate, but you might not get the next piece that you were hoping for. Those kinds of things.
So definitely have some research done on where you want to go afterwards with your degree. Hey.
Yeah. And I think most students coming into us know, well, some know exactly where they want to go. Some know exactly where they want to go. And then they get to us and they go, that's not where I want to go anymore. So now I need to figure out my new path. But we also, a lot of our faculty have worked professionally as well. So for example, Dr. Jeanette Byrne worked as a physiotherapist. So for students interested in physio, Dr. Byrne is an excellent resource because she's been down that pathway. I worked as a recreation therapist, so I understand those pieces. You know, we've had people who have been teachers in the K-12 system. So you're coming into a very hands-on unit as well, so they're able to help with those pieces.
Yeah, and hearing that there's a lot of support from all different areas within the faculty is always great.
Yep.
So in terms of how students could get involved extracurricularly, do you folks have a student society or research opportunities or extracurriculars that students could get involved in even while we're learning online?
Yeah, the HKR Society is our undergrad student society. So they will send out messages as well once the fall hits and they know who their executive is and those kinds of things. They do, I don't know exactly how they'll look in the fall given the current situation, but they do a fair bit of work around social events. So they do the typical undergrad events, pub crawls, parties, those types of things. They also have a year-end social that they invite faculty to. So that happens every year. I'm sure the crowd this year was sad that it didn't happen. But they also do a lot of really good work around fundraising. So they do different events. It's my daughter texting me. I'm gonna say something later. But they're also really involved in charitable work. So our students typically do fundraisers. They do a sports equipment drive each year. And they do typically focus on the types of charitable organizations that would fit within HKR. So it is very sports and recreation driven. There's lots of volunteer opportunities within the school. Now, normally we would have our play program, and I know in recent years we've actually been getting students who went to the play program as a baby with their parents. So we have a play program every Saturday morning in the gym, and it's for preschoolers to come with their parents, and it's basically a physical activity. It's focused on physical literacy. Some of our students get to volunteer with that because it becomes part of a course requirement. Others just volunteer because they're looking for volunteer experiences, and it's convenient because it's in our building. And there's always research opportunities with faculty. So again, depending on your own interests, you can really expand that way. There's so many different research projects happening at any given time, and some are sports, some are recreation, some are physiology. There's so many different avenues in that area within the building. And you'll often see, like, even our senior undergrads have a research project that they do, so they're looking for participants. And some of our students, typically it's our own students who participate in that as well. So if you're interested in being involved, there's definitely ways to be involved.
Yeah, and I mean, the key takeaway there is really reaching out, hey, to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is, the challenge is when you're in a busy environment, no one is going to come looking for you. But if you come looking for us, we will absolutely try and help you. And I will say, we're really, really fortunate in that all of our faculty are very hands-on as well. So in the normal world, um, it's very common to be able to walk through the building and all of the faculty are in their offices, and it's even more common to see students in there with them. So it is a very student oriented unit. So I think if you're coming into the unit, you're absolutely, there's lots of support available, but you do have to go look for it.
Awesome. So I know we're getting to the end of our session here now. Dr. Sullivan, do you have any tips for folks coming in? Any last thoughts that you want to add?
I mean, I think the biggest tip is really make the most out of your university experience that you can. I think sometimes we kind of focus on getting done, and a lot of our students focus on what the next step is. So it's I'm going to physio rather than I'm here. So I think it's really focus on the step that you're currently in and enjoy that, and look for those opportunities. Like if you are interested in something, if we don't offer it within the unit, there's a pretty good chance someone knows where you can get that experience. So I think it's really important to connect with the people that you're working with. And I think that's kind of the whole feeling in our unit, because all of us come from disciplines where we work with people. So, and everyone is in a helping profession, like it comes from a helping discipline as well. So I think if students want to be involved, they can be. But I mean, my one takeaway for students would be to really embrace the opportunity you're about to start and enjoy it.
Fabulous. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. If you have any more questions, feel free to email us at ask@mun.ca. And be sure to check out our next session. It's on scholarships and student aid opportunities. So that's going to be Friday at 2 p.m. Newfoundland time. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.